move the table.
Do it.
I'm gonna move the table.
Do it.
Okay, your live stream,
Thank you.
you want me to?
Okay.
read the
I'm gonna call this meeting to order of the Legislative Committee for February 16, 2024. President Hoy.
Stapleton.
Nishioka?
All right, we haven't heard from the others, so we're just gonna get going. Let's see, updates and information sharing. Courtney, I'm gonna toss it to you and then I'm gonna toss it to Justin.
Well, staff are really busy tracking quite a number of bills, and we're writing testimony on behalf of the city. Thank you, Mayor Hoy, for being so flexible and taking those issues up as quickly as they are coming. And then we'll have an update on the state session from Justin. I've asked our federal folks just to take a pause and a break today, because most of our energy right now, that's not even true as we say that. We're working on our earmarked grant requests right now on the federal side, doing a lot of activity on that side, but really it's about everything that Justin can share with us about what's going on inside the building right now. So that's what we were going to be spending our time together today.
Perfect. All right, Justin.
All right, thanks, Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff. Good to see everybody for our Friday update. I'm going to touch on three things today. First, the calendar, go through that with folks. Second, bill tracking status, what's going on with everything we're looking at. And then finally, some bills for discussion. We'll go through exactly what we're really tracking. And that's all I've got today. So with that, looking at the calendar, you guys can see we printed them out for you. The first session deadline passed. It was on the 12th. And that was requiring bills to be posted for a work session in their original chamber of Oregon. The only bill that we removed from our origin, I'm sorry. The only bill that hopefully everybody gets that. The only one we removed from the list was a non-priority bill that was being watched by Mark. The next deadline is Monday, the 19th. So we'll keep an eye on that. That requires bills to receive a work session in the first chamber. The deadline after that is the 23rd, which is the second chamber work session post deadline.
And can I interrupt you for 1 second? Can you remind us which committees are exempt from those deadlines?
Yeah, so the exempt committees are revenue, transportation, rules, and ways and means.
So if a bill is in one of those, none of that applies.
Exactly. They don't shut.
It travels through.
They can go all the way till the end of session. They don't have to have, they can come up, they can do all of the things in one day on the last day. If they want.
Are most of the ones that we're watching in those?
Well, you'll see these.
Sorry.
They're quite a few are in different places, but
Okay.
important stuff will either be in rules or ways and means.
Yeah.
Obviously, good transportation stuff.
So this is my first time in short session, wanting to make sure I understand with your calendar here. So somebody proposes a bill and it has to go to a work session if it doesn't fit in that category of not necessarily going through a work session. And then is there a certain number of days that is required, or can it go quickly and then out on the floor, or how does that work?
Yeah, so these are just deadlines, mostly for policy bills trying to get out of committee. So if they don't hit those deadlines, technically that bill's dead. Now, that being said, something can get referred to these other committees that we talked about, rules, ways and means.
Oh, I see. So it couldn't get switched.
Exactly. They could stay alive. There's also a huge part of the legislative process. Yes. And there's a huge part of the legislative process that oftentimes we don't even see within those policy bills.
Oh, wow.
So a concept or an idea could go into another bill, a Christmas
Got it.
tree type bill at the end of
Yeah,
sessions
yeah.
or budget, or any kind of a policy bill that can be amended into as long as it fits under a relating to clause.
So
So you can't take a bill on education and go stick it in a housing bill.
Got it.
But if it is germane, that whatever that relating clause is, you can amend a bill and then put it in there, and it probably stays alive or it hasn't.
Okay.
In session.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then finally on your calendar, you can see there's the constitutional sine die is Sunday the 10th. I would imagine they'd get out a little bit early, but you never know. They're trying to make these kind of decisions in a 35-day session. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then, as everybody probably knows, filing day is the 12th. That's when everybody has to say, hey, we're in this race for the general and let's go to work. Any questions on calendar? Excellent. All right, moving right along. Bill tracking status. There were 288 bills introduced this legislative session. Of those, we flagged about 106. And of those, we've got 22 bills on the priority watch list. That's some of the things that we've already been through where you guys have taken positions. But that includes 7 budget bills, which are placeholders. So we're just keeping an eye on those in case those go down to Ways and Means and there's either opportunity or things are getting put in there. So if you take off those 7, we're really looking at about 15 pieces of legislation. I mentioned that first bill that didn't make it through already.
What was that?
One of that deadline. I don't know, Counselor, looking at this, what it was. I can find that out.
The one that you were watching?
That I was watching,
Yeah.
it was the bill on prohibiting public funds for being used for gender reassignment surgery.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm guessing I'll have a text from Nikki telling me, well, that's probably it.
That's it.
As predicted, that building goes.
I think you had said that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, and looking at the things that we've been discussing here in this legislative committee, House Bill 4109, and Trevin's not here today, but that's the photo radar fix. You guys are supportive. This fix is included in the omnibus transportation bill. It's been assigned to that joint committee on transportation. There was a public hearing held on February the 8th, and we haven't seen any action since our last legislative meeting. Next is the WES, the rail extension. You guys are in support of that. It was assigned to the Joint Committee on Transportation, then it goes down to Ways and Means. There was a public hearing held on the 13th, and we did submit a letter of support. Thank you to Council and Mayor for that. Julie, House Bill 4067 relating to electric micro mobility vehicles. We are in support of looking at the overall picture. As you mentioned last meeting, there's a lot of things going on in the space. And you look at the testimony, it was like, yeah, there are a lot of questions and a lot of incentives going on in and around areas, and how's that going to impact safety? So we're keeping an eye on that. Again, Joint Committee on Transportation, there was a public hearing held on the 15th. And there's another bill, 4103, Julie, that we're adding to the watch list. So I'm guessing you flagged that. Similar language, similar sponsorship and support.
So on the micromobility.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on that. The next two, Julie, I know that you were tracking Senate Bill 1519, weight mile tax. We've got to watch one on that. And then Senate Bill 1543, also a weight mile tax. They've had a public hearing and it was carried over until Tuesday, the 20th. So we'll know more about that on Tuesday.
You've been busy, Julie.
Yeah, really. Fun stuff. The next one, Jason, House Bill 4049 relating to those PFAS. Yeah, we're support. Obviously, we assigned it a 1. It's in ag, land use, and natural resources. There was a hearing held on the 8th. There was a work session on the 13th. They had some -2 amendments that were adopted and moved, and then it was referred down to Ways and Means. So we'll keep an eye on it down there. Anything else on that? You just
No, it's a great segue. There's a request from there was a call to action on the federal level for Senate, let's see, 1430. And it's basically, it's a PFAS liability bill in the Senate, the US Senate. So we've been asked to provide a letter of support for that, but it basically is trying to create liability for water and wastewater systems from becoming basically circular regulated, being held accountable for the things that we receive. And so I just want.
So taking away us having to have liability and.
Right, so
potentially being-
for instance, we process wastewater, and so we concentrate a lot of things and we put biosolids related to this bill out, right? So it's taking liability away, so we're not considered producers of hazardous waste.
Yes.
So it takes that liability away from water and resources.
So Courtney, that's something to follow up on a potential letter.
Yes,
Thank you.
there's a draft circulating, so Jason and I will have that prepared for your signature later today.
Have we talked to the folks at Summit?
Not yet, it's only.
I just told her about it this morning. I just
But
got it a couple days ago.
We will be ready.
Okay.
It's squarely within the principles that you've already adopted
Yes.
so it's easy for us.
Yeah, it does. It fits exactly what we're doing. It's just, we just want to get it to widen.
Sure.
Sure that they.
Sounds great.
excellent. All right, moving right along. Senate Bill 1531 relating to American semi-quincentennial.
Oh, good job.
I ended in Origin with Oregon on that one. They held a work session on the 13th. They moved it down to Ways and Means, so we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, we'll see where that goes because that'll probably have an impact on the city. House Bill 4117 relating to the Oregon Governmental Ethics Commission, public meetings. I think Mark's keeping an eye on that. And Sport one there was a public hearing held on the 6th. There was a work session held on the 13th and it moved down to Ways and Means. So it's sitting there still alive.
Can you tell me the direction of that bill? I mean, like, what is its purpose? I understand public hearing, but
It's like having safe harbor for elections. It's just safe harbor for public meetings so that we can pretty clear.
so like we can go to the Sequoia opening and there might be 5 of us.
Well,
We can
so we
ask
can
in
ask the
advance.
question and they will be able to respond to us in writing and give us actual, and it will give us cover that if we follow their advice, then we're not liable. for
So it
what
gives
we did.
regulations on it.
Yeah.
It
gives them the ability-
About this, I just wanted clarity.
It just creates a safe space.
Space, safe space for 4 or more.
Yeah, their testimony actually outlined that. It says to amend 3 ethics laws that give authority to provide advisory opinions and written
Okay.
advice.
All right.
Yeah.
And then it said that the final part of their testimony was that they're ready to offer that advice if the bill passes. So they
Great.
just need this to be
Great.
able to do that.
So the
Thank you.
commission supports it, it sounds like, which is good. That's
Yeah.
important.
Excellent. Senate Bill 1530, and Eunice is here with us. The housing package. It was assigned to Housing and Development, public hearing, and a work session was held on the 13th. Moved, due pass, went down to Ways and Means where it's sitting and alive, and we offered a letter of support for that, which is great. And then finally, House Bill 4072, Representative Anderson's payment in lieu of taxes bill. The mayor testified. Do you want to touch on that, Mr. Mayor?
I testified. It was great.
Great.
Along with most of our legislative delegation for Rep. Anderson, Rep. Mannix, Rep. Deal, Senator Patterson. Got a few questions that I think staff, legislative staff is working on, the LPRO staff. So we're hoping those get resolved fairly quickly because when questions come up in a public hearing in a short session that aren't addressed immediately, that can be a challenge for the bill's livelihood. So we're hoping that those things get resolved.
And I understand written testimony came in from,
Lots.
Lots of written testimony
In
in support, a couple of people in opposition, but it's normally people that oppose everything, so it wasn't surprising, so it's overwhelmingly in support, yeah. And including the county commission, the Marion County Commissioners wrote it in support.
And I saw that, I don't remember if Victor Dodier is still the scan
he
board
is
chair, but they've also,
scanned it,
they also submitted it.
Yeah.
So it was a
long
really,
list.
It's a good list.
really robust
Yeah.
list of support.
And it was a good hearing, and I mean, the real positive is to see bipartisan support
Yeah.
up there. And again, it gets at an overarching issue of what's going on with the property tax system in the state. So there's kind of a dual interest here.
Definitely, yeah, definitely touch points for other things.
No doubt. So we will keep an eye on that. It hasn't been scheduled yet for a work session or anything. Oh, I'm sorry.
That was my question, what's next for it? So we had this first one, we had questions, and then we're gonna have a second work session.
Well, the work session is, for them, work sessions are when they pass it to them.
Okay.
They have a hearing where they take testimony in this, and the work session is when they actually vote.
Okay.
And so, and this is in one of those exempt committees, so we're not constrained by these deadlines so much. So we don't know when the next, probably,
Yeah,
Just limited time, that's the only challenge that we're facing.
it'll stay open, but they do need to schedule it by
they're
so
probably,
we will keep an eye.
they're waiting, they're working, I think staff is working on resolving these questions for the representatives. That's what the holdup is right now.
Okay.
And we've been working with that staff to get them the information, questions.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's it, Mr. Mayor, on what we've been
Okay,
focusing on.
are there any questions about anything Justin went over that we haven't asked?
No, but I have a question about another bill, but that,
Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. Does staff have any updates, the things that we didn't touch on that you feel like we need to touch on? Yep, Jason.
House Bill 4128, which was infrastructure for housing, water and wastewater infrastructure for housing. I think we gave you a list of the projects that we submitted.
Yes.
Last week. Didn't, it was $90 million allocated for that, and none of our projects went for this.
Of course.
Yeah.
Wasn't intended for the bigger cities.
So,
Oh, for small cities.
yeah, so I mean, we tried.
Yeah,
But-
yep. Well, it goes on the list of things they didn't help us with.
Yeah. So just chalk that one out today.
Just get it on your radar screen, Josh. Finance brought to legal's attention yesterday that about House Bill 4056, which is an attempt on a legislative fix to a federal case that came down, which in essence held that if a government forecloses on property or delinquent tax liens and there's a surplus,
I heard about this.
that the person needs to have a mechanism to reclaim that surplus, or it's a constitutional takings. So I don't know who crafted the legislation of House Bill 4056, but it sets a priority for the distribution of the surplus, none of which goes to the cities except for a very limited, if there is a lien for improvements. The city of Salem puts a lot of liens onto properties in code enforcement situations and other situations that wouldn't fall within that improvements. And I believe that this is a common practice for cities throughout the state of Oregon. So I've reached out to the League of Oregon Cities to find out if they're taking a position on House Bill 4056. Interestingly enough, looked at the testimony that was submitted on this. This has had a hearing. Every county is in support of it, but the DOJ actually submitted some testimony because they do liens for things like unpaid child support, some other things that they wouldn't have access to through that surplus under the way that the bill is structured. And their testimony suggests that the crafters of the bill are open to amendments to allow for those things. Hopefully the League of Oregon Cities will do something with this. I have a call into them. I'll attend their noontime meeting today. This would not be good for the city as it is if the amendments proposed by DOJ would include allowing cities to recuperate their liens for things like code enforcement and the other needs of the city. Then we could absolutely support it because it does attempt to fix the problem created by the federal case law, but it is problematic for the city as drafted.
Okay.
There are quite a few people paying attention to it as well.
I can't say I fully understand what you all just said, but. Okay.
We lose money.
Go ahead.
It was crafted without the best interest of cities in mind. Yeah, that's the summary.
Maybe not what you were putting down.
There may be enough actors already involved and engaged that it may not be anything that we want to take attention away from our other priorities to flex our muscle, but it's again entirely the purview of the committee.
Yeah, you know, okay.
I was just gonna say, I think it's something we can watch, and if needed, we can bring it back to the committee.
Yeah. I think this thing looks like it's gonna move, and based on my reading of just really quickly, I'm not concerned about it, but having legs. So, that's just my take, but you know, surprising things happen, so definitely we'll keep an eye on it.
We got money and legal eyes on it, so I think.
Yeah, I think we're good. Cool. Any other things from staff? Councilor Nishoka, you had one?
I just heard about House Bill 4124, which doesn't look like it has any financial impact, and it's about art relating to funding for Oregon cultural organizations and supporting cultural art. I was just curious what's going on.
I don't know.
A lot of folks.
It does say it appropriates monies to the Oregon Business Development Department to distribute to Oregon cultural organizations.
What do you want?
What's the number again, please?
4124.
Thanks.
A lot of support.
Yeah,
Yeah.
looks like a work session on the 15th. Public hearing. It's down in economic development. Yeah, and they had a work session on the.
Passed out a committee 9 to 1 to
Just
1.
yesterday, so it looks like it's moving.
There's only one no vote.
I don't know exactly how it would affect this, but it would affect, any nonprofits that are
In the city.
in the city that are working for cultural art.
That's great.
Hence it supports my recent motion. Woohoo.
Yeah, it looks like it's going through the process, so we will,
Well,
keep-
maybe.
We can,
Just let
we
me
can
know.
add it to the bills that we're watching so
Yeah.
that we'll have more information next
That'd be
time we
nice,
come
thank
back
you.
together.
Any others?
No, that was the only one that I had seen.
Anything else that we haven't discussed? I know these meetings can
Oh.
sometimes be brief during the session, but they're really important just to keep us on top of things. So I appreciate people coming in.
I wouldn't be checking these if
I haven't looked at the bill in detail, but Eunice, would you jump in and say what you're telling me?
Oh, I was just looking at 4124. It looks like the Salem Parks Foundation would get $150,000 in that bill.
Which might be funding for the Echo Earth Globe,
Probably.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
which
good.
gives them half of the need.
Yeah,
Or
So it could be a good seed for their capital.
I give money every month, a little bit. We're gonna get there.
Thank you, Eunice.
thank you. Yes. All right, we'll see.
anything else for the good of the order? Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks.
Thanks.
We're still live on